In March 2026, the Indian government tabled a new legislative amendment bill that sent shockwaves through the NGO sector. This is the FCRA 2026 bill, and while it is still moving through Parliament, its mere introduction has already triggered a massive panic. While the government calls it a move for transparency, several Christian institutions are calling it an existential threat. But what exactly is the FCRA, and why has this specific proposal, which is still just a bill, caused such an immediate and desperate reaction? Today we are going to look past the headlines to understand the law and the fear. More importantly, we will explore how this bill exposes Christianity to be a deceptive religion by pointing out the hypocrisy of both individual Christians and their organizations. So, let's dig deeper. To understand the crisis, we first need to define the framework. FCRA stands for the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. It is the primary law monitoring any foreign money entering India. Whether it is a school, a hospital, or a social charity, if they receive even a single rupee from abroad, they must be registered under this act. This law is not new. It was originally enacted in 1976 to prevent foreign interference in India's internal affairs. It is important to note this law only applies to foreign-funded organizations. If an institution operates entirely on domestic Indian donations, this legislation does not affect them. Historically, it was designed to ensure that foreign capital doesn't compromise India's internal sovereignty. So the question is, if the law has been there since 1976, why the sudden panic among Christians today? What has changed after 50 years to turn a standard regulation into an existential threat? The answer lies in what many are calling the asset takeover clause within the 2026 bill. Under previous versions of the law from 1976 to 2010, a violation usually led to a fine or a temporary suspension of the license. The organization kept its property, it just could not receive more foreign funds. But the 2026 Amendment Bill proposes a radical shift. It suggests that if an organization's license is cancelled, whether due to financial irregularities or activities deemed against national interest, the government can appoint a designated authority to manage and control its assets. We are not just talking about freezing a bank account anymore. We are talking about the state potentially taking over prime real estate, massive school campuses, and multi-specialty hospitals built over decades. For these organizations, this is not just about losing funding, it's about losing their empire. So the Christian panic is not unjustified. They have every reason to worry. However, what their panic reveals is the most damning part of this entire story. This brings us to the core point of this video. How exactly does this FCRA Amendment Bill exposes the hypocrisy within Christianity? For years, whenever critics pointed out that Christian organizations were receiving massive amounts from foreign countries, the standard defense was a defiant and often arrogant challenge. Where is the proof? Show us the evidence that we are dependent on foreign funding. They portrayed themselves as self-sustaining indigenous movements driven solely by the faith and contributions of local Indians. They wanted the public to believe they were of the soil. However, their panicked reaction to the FCRA 2026 bill has completely dismantled that deception. Their reaction serves as a direct confirmation that they have been receiving massive foreign funds. They can no longer challenge anyone with "show us the proof." Their protests are the living proof that the indigenous image they projected was merely a mask for a foreign-funded enterprise. Now, what we are going to see next is how the FCRA bill exposes a deeper deception in Christianity and how this religion was built upon a lie. Christians often proudly claim that they are not of the world, meaning they are not like other people who depend on money and politics. They further claim that their kingdom is not of this world. They claim to belong to a heavenly kingdom. They claim what happens in this world doesn't bother them. They state they are not dependent on politics or economics, but instead are dependent on their God. They are set apart. They are separated from the world. They claim to have no attachment to the world, that their mission is divine and not of this world. But what is happening now? When their assets and money are threatened, they are screaming. Now they are claiming that their total dependence is on politics and economics. What happened to the "Our kingdom is not of this world and we belong to the heavenly kingdom" slogan? The sheer level of desperation over earthly assets, land, buildings, and bank balances reveals where their true trust lies. So, our question to Christians is this: why are you lying? Why are you pretending that you belong to a different world? Why do you make the false claim that your God has separated you from others and placed you on a higher level? Stop acting as though you are special and unique. You are nothing but a movement driven by money and politics. This bill has not just targeted bank accounts, it has stripped away the religious rhetoric to reveal a structure that is more concerned with protecting worldly assets than with spiritual integrity. The FCRA 2026 bill is acting as a mirror. It has forced a level of transparency that these organizations never intended to show. It reveals that the fight is not about religious freedom, but about financial control over massive assets. Whether this bill is a necessary step for national sovereignty or not is a political question. However, the way these organizations are reacting to it exposes their movement for what it truly is. There is nothing divine about Christianity. It has always been a movement based on politics, money, and power.